So hopefully,
We see it.
all right. Can you hear me okay?
You're not in presentation mode. You're still in editing mode.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your presentation though is still in editing mode. It's not in presentation. There it goes.
It should be in now. Okay. All right. Well, this is going to be, this will go fairly quickly because resource ordering is a really complicated topic, or can be. And it takes a while to learn it, but I'm going to kind of overview what resource ordering is about. So if you look at all these different slides here, whether it's an air tanker or a strike team of engines up here, or a couple of strike teams there, or the old blue rooms, these were resource ordered at some point in time in order to show up at an incident. So same thing with N95 masks for law enforcement. And so when you see wildland incidents with particularly, or big incidents with a bunch of people there, resource ordering has taken place in order for them to get there. They don't just show up. So there's a process to do that. So I'm just going to go over, when does resource ordering occur? Who actually does it? Where are they placed? Forms utilized for ordering, systems utilized, and resource ordering considerations. So when does resource ordering occur? Well, a lot of times it occurs internally. If there's a need for resources, additional resources coming from a given agency. A good example is when we were doing our COVID response, we were we had a vaccine clinic and a Q&I site and a testing site. We were all staffing and managing. And so many times we were requesting resources internally from our staging area to provide supplies. And those things could be such as N95 masks and gloves and canopies and you name it. I mean, all kinds of stuff, and would get ordered to help support those sites. And then there are times when you can have incidents or events where additional resources are needed, but they're not immediately available locally. And what comes to mind right away is you got an engine, got a major fire going and gets started, and you don't have enough of your own resources, so you have to request additional resources. So you'll go request those resources to get some help coming your way. And then there's times when you don't, in your local area, you don't have things like aircraft, helicopters, air tankers, bulldozers, office trailers, and those kind of things. And so if you have a large scale incident, you're going to want to perhaps get some of those things. And so some ordering has to happen, resource ordering has to happen in order to get those resources. One of the cool things FEMA has that if you haven't seen it is a resource typing library tool. It's very extensive. It has just about every kind of thing you can imagine. And it's not only the resource, but the typing. And just to say something, chase a rabbit for a little bit here. One of the things about requesting resources is if you know what the resource is. In other words, in my world, I was a firefighter, so we had type 1 fire engines and type 2 fire engines, type 3 fire engines. So everybody knows what that is because we use them all the time. And so when we put in a request, we'll put in a request for like a strike team of type 3 engines, rather than trying to specify each engine and what you're looking for exactly, and whether you need a leader, whether they need communications. It's all spelled out when you ask for it in that kind of configuration. When you say I want a type 3 engine strike team, I would know what I was going to get, which is a leader with communications and five engines, 5 type 3 engines, which are primarily wildland. And so it speeds up the whole process. And I'll get in a little more on resource typing and ordering as we go on here. So, and it does regularly occur during major incidents like wildland fires. Anytime you see the incident base with all those resources, there's been a ton of resource ordering that has occurred to get those resources there. And a lot of times what can happen is a incident commander may be en route, who may be a battalion chief, and you immediately can tell that an incident's going to be fairly major, and so you may then request resources while you're en route to the incident. Just seeing the smoke and the level of smoke and knowing that you have a wind event going on, and you may have some houses in the area, so you're immediately asking for additional resources. And so that can happen. And then when you get into major incidents that get very large, like these mega fires we've been seeing here in the last few years, ordering is going to go on throughout the incident. Some of these incidents have 8,000 people assigned to them, believe it or not. And so they didn't get there by accident, by dispatching themselves. They got there by being requested and ordered. And so, that's part of it. So who does it? Who places the orders? Well, initially it's going to be a dispatcher, more than likely. It'll go to them, and then as the incident grows, you'll start filling positions within the incident, like a logistics section, supply unit leader, ordering manager, and so they actually will do the ordering from the incident. And then when the incidents get really big, they'll put a buying unit. Many times they'll have a buying unit, which they've got all the credit cards and the sub-purchase orders and all the ability to do the ordering and know how much they can spend, which, if you've looked at any of the costs on these major incidents, you get into the millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars when you start talking about all the aircraft and all the people that can be there on these mega fires. So that can happen. So where are the resource orders placed? Well, typically, like tribal agencies have the luxury of being able to go directly to the federal government if they need to, because they're a federal agency, considered a federal agency. So they can go directly to the federal government to place their orders. But they'll also work with the regions and the locals and the state agencies as well to help fill orders as well. So that happens too. So then you can have between agencies at the local level through interlocal agreements or mutual aid. That happens as well. And so you have agreements that, hey, if we have this kind of incident, are you willing to assist us? And you just develop agreements that discuss, what it is you're willing to provide when asked. And then within the region, for instance, we're here in Kitsap Region 2 with Jefferson and Clallam. We could reach out to our regional folks for assets if we needed to. And agreements may be in place. Steve and some of the other folks on here may be in some of the other regions that are aware of other agreements that may be in place to go get resources. So, and then the local level can go to state DM for like our EOC can reach out to the state DM to ask for resources as well. And then as I talked about internally, for resources that are available locally, the idea is to go look for resources within your area before you go reach out to other places and see what you got available. So and then it would kind of reach out from there. So you would go from looking within like for in my case, Kitsap County, if we're looking for a bulldozer or a backhoe or something like that. Trying to see what's available locally, and then if there's none available, then talking to the other counties in Region 2, and then maybe the adjacent counties adjacent to Region 2. And then if we can't find anything that way, then we can reach out to the state and ask the state. And if the state doesn't have it, they can go to the Fed. So it just goes on up the ladder. So and so what forms are utilized? Typically, it'll be a ICS 213RR like this one. This is one from the FDA that I just snagged off the internet. And as you can see, some of the important things on these resource requests, if you happen to be one of the folks that's helping filling them out or making sure that it's filled out correctly, is you want to make sure you've got the correct incident name and the date and time is accurate. And then the resource request number is really important as well. And so then if you go down there in block 4, you see the quantity. You might have 5 of a kind, a fire engine, and what type is type 3. And then you don't really have to get too much into this part of it. If you know what you want and you spec it that way, it's okay to do it that way. And then the resource status, it'll be received by the date, who it's assigned to. And then when you're done with it, who it's going to get released to. So, and the date and time. And some of the other important things are requested delivery reporting location. That's really important. You know, if you're going to order something, you want to be able to say, hey, this is where I would like to have it show up. And then sometimes there may be a suitable substitution you're willing to take. Maybe you really want a 5,000 kilowatt generator, but hey, if you can give me 2,000 Hondas or something, 2,000 kilowatt generators, I could use that as well. So you can make suggestions like that here. And then who's requesting it? And then what is it? What is its priority? Is it urgent? Is it routine, or is it a low priority? You know, that's kind of important to know as well. And then what section chief is approving it? And that's pretty much it. You'll send it in, and once the section chief has approved it, it'll go in, and then logistics will get it in theory and then start working it, and then finance will come up with the finance part of financing it as it routes its way through in the ordering process. But one of the things I talked about, this resource request number, very important, because that's going to be assigned to whoever you're requesting. Like if you're requesting a strike team of engines or strike team of bulldozers or hand crews, they're going to have this resource and this request number. And that will be given to them. And so when they show up to the scene and check in, they will have that resource request number, and then the incident can go back and go, oh yeah, okay, so this is when they were supposed to get here. And looks like they're here. So they'll check them in and have their information. So any questions about that so far? Okay, not hearing any. So a couple other things. So there are some computer systems that are used for ordering, tracking. The Interagency Resource Ordering Capability, the IROC system, it's mainly used in wildland community nationwide, but federal agencies and some state agencies are using it. And I don't know, Steve, maybe you can answer this question: are the tribe folks using this IROC capability for any of their ordering? Do you know?
I actually don't know.
Okay, I was just kind of curious. I think they can have access to it and use it. And then there's WebEOC, which is a FEMA-sponsored program for information flow between the states and local governments, as well as FEMA. And it provides ordering capabilities along with information management, other information management, and it's used in most EOCs today. So here's some this is kind of like getting down to the last slide, but these are some resource ordering consideration. One is that each locale is going to have their own way of processing their orders, even though everybody more than likely uses a 213 R&R. Where it's going to go, who the specific resources or the specific agencies that the request will go through. It's one of the things about ordering is a lot of times the folks that have been doing it a long time who have experience at it know where to go to get the resources. And so if you're like a new amateur radio operator and you're assisting, you may not know that. And so it's important to learn your local agencies processes and where you go to get where you will reach out to get resources. And that's excellent. The 213s and systems are really good for tracking resources. They got to be tracked from the time that they get ordered till the time they get back home, so that everybody knows that they got back home when the incident's over with, and know where they are when they're on the incident. So and the tracking also is good with, there are computer systems and then T cards. A lot of times people will take the orders like a 213RR or some of the computer systems and then transfer the data to T cards and have T card recs and shows like, well, I've got an engine strike team here, or and then given an assignment, and they work really well. I've been in our region sites in California where we've got just walls of T cards, and they're still used as a backup. The paper is still a backup, even though a lot of computer systems are kind of picking up the load, particularly the IROC system, and it was the Ross system before that. But anyway, if you are one of the ones that's being asked to order something, you need to be really clear about what it is you're going to request or what it is you're being asked to request. The resource typing tool, if you get that out and look through it, you can place the order based upon the resource typing tool. Like it'll have a law enforcement agency strike team, and what does that consist of? Well, everybody can look at the same thing, and when you're asking for it, and so it should fill out what you want. But if you don't really know what the resource type is or what exactly it is, a brief explanation on what you want the resource to accomplish really helps. So do you want a backhoe to dig a trench, or do you want a bulldozer to cut a line, or do you want a line crew to help with power lines, or whatever it is you're asking for? Just a brief explanation helps a lot, because if you don't know specifically what the resource is, you may end up with something that you may show up to the incident and they go, why do we have this? Who ordered this? I've seen that happen a lot. So it's something, the brief explanation on what it is you want to accomplish with the resource really, really helps. And if you don't, like it says, if you don't transmit the resource information accurately, it may end up with something you just won't accomplish what you really need. So that's kind of a quick overview. I know that's fast and it covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. I'm willing to answer any questions about any of that, or fill in anything that you're kind of confused about if you have any questions. Turn my video on for a minute. Any questions? Any comments? Anything else you want me to cover?
So Doug, if WebEOC isn't operational because it is internet based and the internet is not working, what's the backup?
Well, we can use amateur radio. WinLink Express is one option to and send our 213 RRs in that manner down to DEM at the state level with that process. And so if you're not familiar with WinLink Express, probably most of you are, but it's got all the forms. The Washington State forms are in the WinLink Express, so that you can pull up and fill out a 213 RR and put the information in there that you need, and then transmit it down to Washington State DEM. So that is definitely an option. And then worst case scenario, you can do it by voice over HF, or if you have contact for VHF. So any other questions? Did that answer your question, Steve?
Yeah, that was just a general question, so you would answer it for everybody.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for the prompt. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much a quick overview. But like I say, you really have to learn and work in your system and understand how the ordering process works. And it's not a simple process. It sounds like it should be really simple, but it's really not a simple process, because you do need to know where the resources are ordered from, what you're asking for, and what configuration they need to come in, and all of that. And a lot of times that'll be done for you, and you're just going to transfer. If you're operating somewhere, you're just going to transfer that information. But it helps to know what's needed on the form and what's missing on the form, so that you can just put some fill information in, or ask a fill-in question about it. So anyway, I've done a ton of ordering in my previous lifetime, and it can get pretty interesting. I was working a major fires. Oh, it's been back in the 80s now, back in our regional office in Northern California, and I was assigned just to the crews desk, hand crew desk, and we moved 10,000 people in and out of the region in hand crews. They were coming in, and then they were going out, and they were coming back after 2 weeks, and then going back out again. So it was pretty interesting, pretty intensive. So, but it was something that I was very experienced at, and so I got asked to come up and help. And so, not that people can't learn it while on the job while it's happening, but anyway, enough of that. Anything else?